Okay, so most people would say, hey, I only trade QQQ, NQ, NASDAQ, whatever. And others would say, hey, I only focus on S&P, ES, SPY, what have you. But the truth is that NASDAQ, S&P, NASDAQ, S&P, and the Dow, that's not the Dow are pretty much the same. You can kind of see they look the same. They have the same uptrend. They've got this similar opening range gap here. They're pretty much the same. And so that's why you can kind of trade any of them. If you want to be specific, the NASDAQ is a bit of a stronger move. It's way more volatile. So it's for your people who can tolerate and, that sort of explosive out of nowhere sort of movement to the upside or to the downside. Your S&P is a little bit more controlled. It's like your tamed, well-behaved ticker. It gets to the point where it needs to get to without all the volatility and drama mixed in between. The Dow is gets where it needs to get to as well, but it's not as impressive, I guess. And it has less stocks. It has about 30 in it, so it's not as dynamic as the S&P, and definitely not as dynamic as the Nasdaq. If I put them both side by side, and I think I have them here. Hide all. And, oh, wait, I can't even do that. Oh, I see. If I put them side by side and compare both the NASDAQ, let's see, this is the S&P. Let's compare the NASDAQ to the S&P. Just looking at it, again, they look alike. So does it matter which one you trade? It's honestly just preference. And it's also the strategy that you use to trade. If you've ever heard of anything called SMT divergence, this is kind of like a confluence or a confirmation that people would use to determine which of the charts they would trade. Because a lot of people will say, hey, NAS and S&P are pretty much fraternal twins. They move pretty similarly, but there are some times when they diverge. And to the regular eye, you'd be like, okay, whatever, that's not a big deal. But to a trader who trades SMT, they may say that divergence actually is really important, and I'm going to use that to help further confirm the direction of the trade that I want to get into. So, like, for example, let's say none of this has already taken place, and we're somewhere over here trading, and our bias is bearish for whatever reason. We looked at all the stuff and we decided our bias is going to be bearish on both. And let's say we have no preference between NASDAQ and ES. It just depends on whichever one looks great for the day. I'm going to be looking for an SMT divergence. I'm going to be looking for an area where, while I know NASDAQ and ES both move pretty similarly, I'm going to look for like a small, like, you didn't really do what the other one did. And that's interesting. So I can't really draw because it's going to put up all my drawings that I've done for Sunday. But if you look at this light green, dark green candle here, and notice that if you're new to TradingView and using the charts, that as I move over here, it reflects the same time frame over here because I've got this split screen for the two different tickers. But if I hover my cursor over this kind of swing high, this high and low over here, and I look for the next prominent swing high and low for movement, when I look at this one on the S&P and I look at the next, I notice that I'm going from high to low, high to low. But I notice on this aspect, and as you're looking at it over here, you can see it reflecting on the S&P, that when I hover over this and I move over to this one, I actually go from high to higher. So if I go from high to low on S&P, but I go from high to higher on NASDAQ, and my bias was already bearish, what am I saying with this? I'm saying that NASDAQ, even though NASDAQ and S&P are going to move in the same direction going down, NASDAQ is going to take a little longer to get there because it wants to make this higher move before it starts to drop down, right? Because it went from high to higher versus S&P went from high to low. It actually wants to go down and it's already indicating it wants to go down. Some would consider S&P, for the purposes of this example trade, the leading index for this. And so it would focus on this. Does this mean NASDAQ will not follow through? Obviously it will, because again, they're pretty similar. They move directionally, in the same direction. And you can see, obviously, we have bars printed out here, price did drop. But just that small deviation lets you kind of pinpoint and kind of be a little bit more sniper or laser focused in figuring out what index do I really want to trade on? You can trade on the NASDAQ and deal with a draw down or a draw up before you get to where you need to. Or you can trade on the S&P and have less of a draw up or a draw down and get to where you need to. So it's just a preference. Most people stick to the NASDAQ because it is the strongest and it's the most volatile index to trade. But because it's the strongest and the most volatile, it is the most it's like thinking about your, ADHD child. It's rambunctious. It's going to do what you tell it to do, him or her to do, but it's going to do it with all the drama and so much energy and running up and going down and wicking here and wicking there. It's just so much. Like just looking at the wicks of wick, 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 like it's always so much longer, so much more exaggerated, bigger moves. But you tend to make more money with the Nasdaq versus the S&P or the ES or the SPY is a little more controlled. Like you're well behaved, twin that listens to you and follows instructions. You don't see as much wicking for the most part. You see it's a little bit more, it gets to where it needs to get to. It doesn't do all the drama and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of the difference. The Dow, people don't focus so much, as far as intradayers, don't really look at the Dow that much. Compared to SPY or compared to S&P and NASDAQ, Dow has less companies under it, so it has a lower volatility, lower move, lower volume, but it's still a great index to look at and kind of compare between the S&P and the NASDAQ if that's something that you trade regularly. I hope that helps.